5 deepest betrayals every chosen one must endure. It's a huge gift. You were never meant to fit in. That ache, that longing to belong, to be understood, to be seen not just on the surface, but in the deepest chambers of your soul, has been with you since the beginning. But maybe you've asked yourself, why me? Why does it always feel like the people I love the most are the ones who turn their backs on me? That question is not just valid, it's sacred. Because the journey of the chosen one is not filled with applause and approval. It's paved with betrayal, not just once, but again and again. And each time it happens, it cuts deeper. But here's the paradox. Those betrayals are not curses. They are invitations. And the more we resist them, the more we suffer. But the moment we learn to see them for what they truly are, a divine orchestration, everything changes. I remember the first time I felt it, the betrayal of trust. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, subtle. A friend who stopped calling. A mentor who broke a promise. A family member who chose silence over support. And I sat there, feeling hollow, wondering what I had done wrong. But the deeper I went into that pain, the more I began to see. These betrayals weren't punishments. They were initiations. They were the universe's way of saying, you're not like the others. You are being prepared for something greater. But before you can rise, you must be emptied.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
You see, the first betrayal the chosen one must endure is the betrayal of belonging. The moment you begin to awaken, truly awaken, you realize that the tribe you once called home no longer sees you. They may love you, yes, but they cannot understand you. Your thoughts, your questions, your hunger for meaning, it threatens the comfort of those still asleep, and so they withdraw. Or worse, they attack, and you're left wondering if you're crazy. But what if I told you that this loneliness is holy? That it is not the absence of connection, but the stripping away of illusions. The chosen one walks alone not because they are unworthy of love, but because they are being taught to love without condition, to stand in truth without needing approval, to be in the world, but not of it. Ask yourself, when was the last time you felt deeply connected to someone, only to realize later that they could not walk with you into the next chapter of your soul's evolution? That heartbreak wasn't a mistake. It was alignment. And this brings us to the second betrayal, the betrayal of the self. This one is more subtle, more insidious, because it comes from within. We betray ourselves when we dim our light to keep others comfortable. When we say yes, but mean no. When we silence our truth to avoid conflict. And every time we do this, a part of us dies. The chosen one must confront this inner traitor, not with judgment, but with compassion. Because that version of you, the one who betrayed themselves, was just trying to survive. They were doing the best they could with the tools they had. But now survival is no longer enough. That you are being asked to thrive, to expand, to become. And thriving requires truth, raw, unfiltered truth. Even when it terrifies you, even when it costs you relationships, jobs, reputations. Because the chosen one does not serve the world by playing small. They serve by standing tall, by speaking light into darkness, by being the mirror that reflects what others are too afraid to see. But here's the challenge, When you begin to live in that truth, you will trigger others. You will become the villain in someone else's story. And that brings us to the third betrayal, the betrayal of perception. People will misunderstand you. They'll project their fears, their wounds, their unresolved pain onto you. You'll be called selfish for choosing yourself, arrogant for setting boundaries, cold for walking away. But what if I told you that being misunderstood is evidence that you are evolving, that your frequency is shifting, that you are no longer playing by the rules of the wounded? You cannot awaken and be liked by everyone. It's impossible, because awakening disrupts. It shakes foundations, and those who are not ready will see you as a threat. This is where many chosen ones fall back asleep. The pressure to be liked, to be understood, to be validated, it's intoxicating. But it's also a trap, because the moment you distort yourself to fit into someone else's narrative, you betray your mission. You cannot serve your soul and their comfort at the same time. So the question becomes, which voice will you listen to? The voice of fear that says stay small, stay safe, or the voice of truth that whispers rise? And rising is never easy, because the higher you go, the fewer people you can take with you. It's not personal, it's energetic. But some people are not meant to walk with you into the light. Their role in your story was to awaken you through contrast, through pain, through betrayal. And that's the strange gift. They were never your enemies. They were your initiators, your sacred agitators. Without them, you would have never remembered who you truly are. So let me ask you, who have you been clinging to, hoping they'll see you, love you, choose you? And what is that clinging costing you? Your peace, your power, your purpose? The chosen one must learn the sacred art of release, not out of bitterness, but out of reverence. Because every ending is a beginning. Every loss clears space for truth. And every betrayal is a breadcrumb leading you back home. But home is not a place, it's a state of being. It's the moment you stop searching and start remembering that you were never alone, that the universe has always been conspiring in your favor, that every heartbreak, every rejection, every moment of despair was preparing you for this very moment when you would finally awaken to the truth of who you are. You are not broken, you are becoming. And the fire you're walking through, it's not here to destroy you, it's here to purify you, to burn away everything that is not you, so you can rise, so you can lead, so you can embody the light you came here to be. The unseen hands that pull you apart and why you must let them. There's something terrifying about being pulled apart, not physically, but spiritually, when everything you thought you were begins to crumble. When the people you trusted the most become distant shadows, or worse, mirrors reflecting back your deepest insecurities. There's a betrayal that the chosen one must endure that's not just about others turning away from us. It's about life itself feeling like it has turned against us, the betrayal of divine timing. The spiritual disruption that leaves us questioning whether the path we're on is truly guided or just a cruel cosmic joke. You've felt it, haven't you? The moment when everything starts slipping through your fingers. The job that once gave you purpose suddenly feels hollow. The relationship you poured your heart into collapses without warning. The friends who once celebrated your growth now mock your transformation. And in the silence that follows, you begin to ask, why is this happening to me? But what if that question is too small? What if the better question is, what is this trying to awaken in me? We often think of betrayal as something external, someone else's actions wounding us. But the deepest kind of betrayal is orchestrated by the invisible hands of the universe. It happens when life begins pulling away everything that is no longer aligned with your next evolution. Not because it wants to punish you, but because it wants to purify you. And yet most of us resist. We cling. We beg. We try to resurrect what is already dead. And in doing so, we prolong the pain. This is the paradox the chosen one must face, that growth feels like death. Real transformation isn't pretty. It's messy. It's disorienting. It's a sacred unraveling that leaves you naked before yourself. And that nakedness is where the gift hides. Because until you are stripped of your false identities, your roles, your attachments, your need to be liked, you cannot meet your true self. And your true self is terrifying. Not because it's dark, but because it's luminous. It holds a power you've been taught to fear, a voice you've been trained to silence, a destiny you've been conditioned to avoid. But that power comes at a price. You must lose what you thought you needed. You must let go of who you thought you were. You must surrender to the hands that are pulling you apart. Not because they are cruel, but because they are wise. The universe does not waste pain. Every heartbreak, every closed door, every betrayal, it's all part of the sacred design to bring you back to your core, to your purpose, to your light. I want to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself. What are you still holding on to that is already gone? What version of yourself are you still trying to keep alive, even though it's suffocating your spirit? The chosen one must learn how to grieve not just people, but identities, old dreams, outdated values, beliefs that once served them but are now cages. And in that grief, a space opens, a holy silence, a void. And that void is not emptiness. It's potential. It's the womb of your rebirth. Yet it's in that void that the fourth betrayal emerges, the betrayal of divine silence. When you cry out for guidance and nothing responds. When you beg for signs and all you get is stillness. When you ask for clarity and receive only confusion. This silence is not abandonment. It is the echo of your own becoming. The universe goes silent not to punish you, but to invite you to listen deeper. Because the answers you seek are not out there. They are inside you. Buried beneath the noise, hidden beneath the fear, waiting for you to stop searching and start remembering. And here's the truth most people will never tell you. Being a chosen one is not about being special. It's about being willing to break, willing to be misunderstood, willing to walk away from the crowd and into the wilderness of your own soul. It's not glamorous, it's not always peaceful, but it is real. And in a world built on illusion, real is revolutionary. So let the hands pull you apart. Let the betrayals come. Let the old fall away, not because you enjoy the pain, but because you trust the process. Because you know that every piece that falls is making room for something greater, something truer, something eternal. When love turns to shadow, the betrayal that unlocks your divine heart. There is no betrayal more piercing, more disorienting, than when love itself becomes the blade. When the very thing you trusted to hold you begins to tear you apart. And yet, this is the betrayal that every chosen one must face, the betrayal of love. Not just romantic love, but sacred connection. The kind of love that once felt like home, that once made you believe you had finally been seen, finally been found. And then, one day it turns, it vanishes. Or worse, it becomes twisted, conditional, manipulative. You're left standing in the ruins of what once felt divine, asking yourself, was any of it real? But that question is the doorway, because the betrayal of love is not the end. It's the beginning of a deeper, more eternal kind of love, the one that lives inside you. To be chosen is to be cracked open by love, again and again. And with every crack, the false layers fall away, the need to be needed, the desire to be completed, the illusion that someone else can make you whole. That is the shadow of love, the part we don't talk about. The way we project our wounds onto those we claim to love. The way we expect them to save us from our own emptiness. And when they can't, because no one can, we call it betrayal. But was it truly betrayal, or was it truth finally revealing itself? Think about the person who hurt you the most. The one you gave everything to. The one you believed would never turn away. And yet they did. Maybe they left. Maybe they changed. Maybe they stayed. But their love became cold, distant, punishing. But that pain, that was not just heartbreak. That was initiation. Because the chosen one cannot carry false love into true purpose. You must be stripped of illusions. You must see clearly. And only betrayal has the power to burn away the stories we tell ourselves about what love is supposed to be. Real love doesn't control. It doesn't shame. It doesn't demand you shrink. But how many of us, in the name of love, have abandoned ourselves? How many times have we silenced our truth to keep the peace? How many times have we stayed in places that were slowly killing our spirit because we were afraid of being alone? That fear is the shadow, and the betrayal is the medicine. Because when love betrays you, it forces you to confront the one person you've been running from yourself. And here lies the sacred paradox. The person who broke your heart was never your enemy. They were your mirror. They showed you where you had forgotten your worth, where you had tied your identity to being chosen, seen, kept. Their betrayal was not cruelty, it was your soul screaming for liberation. Sometimes, the only way to remember who you are is to be shattered by someone who once made you forget. But what do we do with the pain? That sharp, aching weight in the chest that doesn't go away after a few meditations or affirmations. We sit with it. We breathe into it. We ask it what it's here to teach us. You see, the chosen one doesn't run from pain. We alchemize it. We use it as fuel. We take the ashes of our broken dreams and build altars with them. Because we know that every ending is sacred. Every heartbreak is a passage. And every betrayal, especially the ones that come wrapped in love, is a divine redirection. Let me ask you something, and I want you to be brutally honest. Who are you still waiting for an apology from? Whose love are you still chasing, hoping it will finally validate you? That longing is not weakness. It's a breadcrumb. It's pointing you back home. Because the love you deserve is not found in their hands. It's found in your own embrace, in the way you speak to yourself, in the boundaries you set, in the dreams you honor, in the truth you refuse to abandon, even when it costs you everything. The betrayal of love is the gateway to divine love, the kind that needs nothing in return, the kind that overflows, the kind that doesn't ask you to become smaller to be worthy. And once you taste that love, you stop begging for crumbs. You stop shrinking to fit into someone else's void. You rise, you radiate, you become the embodiment of the love you were searching for all along. And something miraculous happens. You stop attracting relationships that mirror your wounds and start attracting those that mirror your wholeness. But that shift can only happen after the betrayal, after the fall. Here, after you've walked through the fire and let it burn everything false to the ground. That's the cost of awakening. That's the price of being chosen. The final betrayal, when the world turns its back, you step into your power. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey that feels like the very ground beneath your feet gives way. Not because of one person, not a lover or a friend, not even a family member, but because the entire world, the very system you were born into, begins to reject you. This is the fifth and final betrayal, the betrayal of the world itself. The institutions, the culture, the norms, the rules, they all start to feel like a cage. And suddenly you see it, you see through it. And once you do, you can never unsee. This is the betrayal that will either break you or awaken you so fully that you'll never be the same again. When the world turns its back on you, it's not always loud. Sometimes it's subtle. You speak your truth, and they call you crazy. You share your vision, and they say be realistic. You follow your inner knowing, and they label you rebellious, difficult, even dangerous. And at first it hurts, because there was a time when you still wanted to belong. You still wanted to be accepted by the world you were born into. You wanted to play by the rules and still win. But the deeper you walk into your calling, the more you realize those rules were never made for you. They were made to keep you asleep, compliant, small. This betrayal is sacred because it marks the final severance. It's the moment you stop looking for validation from a world that was never built with your liberation in mind. You stop trying to fit into systems that thrive on conformity. You stop seeking permission to be who you already are. And in that moment, in that breaking, something extraordinary happens. You begin to rise, not because the world finally accepts you, but because you finally accept yourself. Fully, fiercely, without apology. And as you rise, you realize something else. The betrayals were never punishments. They were permissions. Permissions to let go, and permissions to evolve, permissions to become. You were never meant to be comfortable here. You were meant to disrupt, to awaken, and to embody a love so radical, a truth so piercing, a light so blinding that it challenges everything false. And of course the world resists that. Of course it pushes back. But that resistance is confirmation, not condemnation. Let me ask you something very real. How much of your power have you given away trying to be understood by people who are not even trying to understand themselves? How long have you been waiting for the world to approve of a version of you that no longer exists? That approval will never come. And that's the point. Because the final gift of betrayal is freedom. The kind of freedom that only comes when you stop needing the world to love you, and start loving yourself so deeply that the world's opinion becomes irrelevant. You don't need to be saved. You don't need to be fixed. You don't need to be tamed. You need to be unleashed. And that unleashing starts when you embrace every single betrayal as a spiritual inheritance. You were never cast out, you were cast forward. But you were never abandoned, you were redirected. You were never broken, you were broken open. And now, here you are, on the other side, wiser, stronger, softer. You've walked through the fire and found yourself. You've faced every shadow and found light. You've been betrayed at every level, and yet you still rise. Not in spite of the pain, but because of it. Because every wound became a window, every scar became a scripture, and every fall was a flight in disguise. You are not the same. You are the storm and the stillness, the fire and the phoenix, the wound and the healer. You are the chosen one not because life favored you, but because you answered the call when everything else told you to run. And now, the world doesn't reject you. It reflects you. Because once you fully step into your power, the world has no choice but to rise to meet you. That is the final gift. That is the miracle born from every betrayal,